Hi, I'm Stephen Vizinczey. I'm the author of In Praise of Older Women, An Innocent Millionaire, and essays. And I am here to talk with Claire Parker today, who is a teacher, which she doesn't like me to mention, but...
yeah, I used to teach English and French.
English and French.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me that one of the things which pleased you is that you managed to make them interested.
Well, yes, if you can get a class, in the palm of your hand and they want to listen, that's the joy of teaching. Yeah, okay.
That was a very important thing, that you taught children who were eager to learn. Mm-hmm. They were actually dancers.
Oh,
but still,
nice. I used to teach in the ballet school. Yes.
The ballet school. But they were still interested in literature.
It makes you think of, because you're going to talk about Gulliver's Travels, Jonathan Swift. The Houyhnhnms, the last part of the book, were very, very interested in Gulliver's account of life in England, how society was run. Anyway, they were a captive audience, the Houyhnhnms.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway.
And they were horrified by Jonathan Swift's description of it. I want to read you a passage from Gulliver, when Gulliver is with the giants. And he talks to the king of the giants, who turns to his first minister, who waited behind him with the white staff nearest tall as the mainmast of the royal sovereign. He observed how contemptible thing human grandeur was, which could be mimicked by such diminutive insects as I. And yet, said he, I dare engage these creatures have their titles and distinctions of honor. They contrive little nests that they call burrows, that they can call their houses and cities. They make a figure in dress and equipage. They laugh, they fight, they dispute, they cheat, they betray. And thus he went on. Why my color came and went to hear my noble country, the mistress of, he's talking about England, the mistress of arts and arms, the scourge of France, the arbitress of Europe, the seat of virtue, piety, honor and truth, the pride and envy of the world so contemptuously treated. What is interesting about that, I'm sorry I'm not a good reader, is that he both evokes the love of country and at the same time ridicules it. And this duality is incredibly important in Swift. If you want to know about lawyers, and actually if you look at Parliament, you have an illustration of that, because most of the MPs are lawyers.
And therefore full of corruption.
Full of corruption, and never talk about what is at issue. Swift describes an argument about a cow who went to the neighbor's field to graze, and so the dispute should be about whether the cow went to the neighbor's field to graze or not. But that's not what the lawyers talk about. They talk about the color of the cow, and they talk about absolutely everything except about what the issue is. which, as I say, you can get a good example of it in Parliament, but it's still worth reading Jonathan Swift, who is the best in the subject of lawyers. Actually, if you want to know about lawyers, and before you go to law, to any kind of dispute anywhere, you better read him. As a lawyer friend told me, when you go to court to discuss something, what the court will decide who had the better lawyer.
Goes back to Chaucer, doesn't it?
Sorry?
Lawyers don't do very well in literature.
No.
Chaucer's lawyer is much provided.
Well, you remember in Shakespeare, kill all the lawyers.
Oh, yes.
And it is really perhaps necessary, but very bad profession, because you pay for what you say. You say what you are paid for. You represent the party you are paid for. And this is just one of the aspects of Jonathan Swift. And like Voltaire's Candide, it is always in print. It was a bestseller since it first appeared at the beginning of the 18th century. And that was, people looked down on the 18th century, but in fact the 17th and 18th century were a great period of European culture, because people had no way to entertain themselves but to read and make love. These were the two main occupations, and that kept them healthier than they had become. One of the great troubles of the modern world is that we can have too many distractions and don't go anything into deeply. In the old world, they didn't have it too much way to distract you. You had to consider you had time to consider what really mattered to you and to the world. And again, he is one of the best possible writer. And as clearly said, what do you say? Humanins.
Peaceful society.
Yes, because they were horses and could not imagine the horrors which human beings inflicted on each other.
Gulliver describes how people died in his country. They often suffer from horrible diseases, and he goes into great detail about how these diseases are contracted. And the Huguenot, whom he's speaking, says, well, when we die, the horse becomes weak, and then he dies, and that's it.
Yes.
He doesn't have to undergo an agonizing disease for a long time before he dies. Yeah.
Yes.
You know.
Well, that is...
They're mostly horrified by Gulliver's account of his society.
Yeah. And it's also another irony. He was also an ironic writer, that horses were horribly treated.
Just, yes.
At the time, and even today, horses were the slave of people, and they really, while they were the main means of transportation on land, they were terribly treated and worn out. They carried everything from coal to food, everything, and so they led a horrible life. And he makes the horses and the life of the horses as the utopia of a happy life. So it's a very, very moving thing. I'm not thinking that I don't think I really told you much about it very convincingly, but the fact that this book has been alive ever since it was first published, and while Walter scanned it, it was an immediate bestseller, and to this day it is one of the basic books of literature. You told me earlier something which would make a great show, and I wish we could do it, to bring
if you could
Walter
bring Walter, Mark Twain,
and Jonathan
and John Smith together in one room, what a conversation that would be. That would be wonderful. There's a very touching moment. There are not many touching moments in the book, you have to say that. You know, it touches your heart. But when Gulliver is forced to leave the land of the ruins, the Sorrel Bay, remember the Sorrel Bay, who looks after him, and he has a nice relationship, and she calls to him, take care of yourself. Take good care of yourself.
Yes. Well, that become a Bible since then.
Yeah.
People greet and part, saying, take care,
Take care of yourself. She meant it. She meant it. Yeah.
It's a very moving book. It is less funny, but more ironic. So certainly certainly the book you can learn irony from.
It appeals to a broad readership, because children would read that quite early on.
Yes.
You know, 11, 12 years old, and they would be fascinated by the Lilliputians, you know, the tiny people, and also the giants. But the later books are perhaps harder for them, but it has a great appeal. It has a very wide readership.
Yes. So the beginning, and you yourself must have seen some movie about Gulliver. But at the same time, while childhood memories of the various films might be pleasant to remember, the book is about a lot more, and much more deeper. The trouble with every book is that the more you know yourself, the more experience of life you have, the more you appreciate that. So Gulliver Travels at the age of 10 is much less interesting than the Gulliver's Travels if you read it also at the age of 20. In fact, this is one of the books which I read at least once in every decade. And every time I pick up something new which I missed earlier. Because the thing about all great writers, and these were certainly great writers, that it's impossible to get everything they tell you right away, because every sentence has 3-4 meanings, and you have to read them several times to get them all.
That's the same with reading any book, any great book or any book. You read it fast the first time because you want to know what happens. But if you pick it up again, you know what happens, so you're reading it for a different reason, and of course you'll get a lot more out of it.
Correct. So remember, reading and rereading this great book will make you a wiser person. And another thing I must say, that, you know, people, I urge you to read, you know, books which makes you feel good, and they read it as a kind of like a drink to make you feel better. But if you read books to make you feel better, then you will end up more vulnerable. The most important thing about books is that you learn from them, because knowledge is what keeps you alive. And, you know, to reading books just to make you feel better is like getting drunk. It may be very pleasant, but won't be much use to you, won't help you to survive.
Can I tell you something about the yahoos?
Yes.
The yahoos were the subspecies in Huinam land.
Yes.
They were filthy creatures that did all children. I went to a school called Notre Dame High School for young ladies, and we had a headmistress called Sister Anne Consuela, and she took assembly every Monday morning, and one day she said, "This is Notre Dame High School for young ladies, not yahoos. And if you don't know what a yahoo is, may I refer you to Jonathan Swift."
Yes.
I've never forgotten what a yahoo is.
Yes. And that is certainly a book you should read 4 or 5 times during your life, and it will make you wiser and brighter and more able to cope with the world. I must say, I find it strange, all the money people spend on mental health. The greatest thing for mental health is reading great books, listening to great music. The world is full with treasures, with the geniuses of thousands of years who can help us to cope with life. This is the best thing we can do for mental health.
Instead of counselors.
Instead of counselors.
Counselors, yeah.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Mm.
It's, well, I hope we will talk again. And maybe we should talk about Mark Twain again.
That's a good idea.